Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by the generosity of the following companies. The Old Mill Press, publishing beautifully crafted books that illuminate our world. To learn more, visit theoldmillpress.com. And by listeners like you.
Hi, this is Daryl Rooney. I'm an animation director, story artist, and author, and you are listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Aye, mateys, remember this as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock Podcast. Proceed at your own risk, and mark well me words, mateys. Dead men tell no tale.
Welcome to Skull Rock Podcast, the show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming, what's in theaters, and what's going on in this universe of entertainment. I'm Aljon, lifelong musician and Disney, Marvel, Star Wars fan and pop culturist. And you can email me, Aljon, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Kat, filling in for Dave. This week, I am an experiential producer, a film historian. Welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can like and follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can also email Dave at skullrockpodcast.com. Hi, Aljon.
Hey, Kat. Welcome back. This is another great week of you and I kind of doing the show while Dave is getting situated and moving up the truck and everything and settling into his new digs. But we'll hear from Dave later. How was your week?
Oh, it was certainly something.
Oh, boy.
It's been hot here in Southern California. So we've been dealing, but I can't complain. It's been good.
There you go. Well, I can't believe that this month is wrapping up. August is just about put to bed. We're moving into the fall with September being here. And that means it's Halloween season. Halloween season has started early. We're going to talk about some Halloween news there at the Walt Disney World and Disneyland resorts. We've got a bunch of great news. We've got an interview with our big guest who's going to be doing a multi-part interview with us. This is like Bill Kroyer month moving into September. If you don't know who Bill Kroyer is, he's nominated for an Academy Award for his his film short, Technological Threat. And his visual effects, he's kind of leading the charge with that. I mean, it started all the way back to TRON, and working with Rhythm and Hughes, his studio, who directed CG characters that have grossed over $1 billion worldwide. He's worked on Fern Gully, and he's worked on, so many animated films like TRON and The Green Mile and so many. I mean, A Nightmare on Elm Street, he was a storyboard artist, for heaven's sake. I mean, he's done everything in this business. And he is just a fascinating and well-rounded and grounded guy. So, I'm so looking forward to just talking to him because, he's just fascinating, absolutely fascinating. He's done so much. And, just so you know, he's won, an Annie Award. He's won several Academy Awards. He was the nominee for for his short. I mean, he's amazing. So anyway, I'm gushing about him because he's amazing. So, we're going to talk to Bill in just a little bit. And I guess in the world of entertainment, we have some news and, stuff we're going to go into in just a little bit. What else is happening in your world, Kat?
Oh, we are really ramping up for Halloween over here. At Disneyland Resort started their Halloween season this week on the 22nd, and it's full blast. Haven't made it over there just yet, but I'm hoping to in the next couple of weeks. Do we want to talk about our watches of the week?
Oh, yes, we do. Oh, there we go. Film projector's running. Let's move into that. What did you watch this week, Kat?
Oh, okay. So I caught up on Alien Earth, which I'm pleasantly surprised with how much world building they're able to do in such a short, it's like a 40-minute episode or whatever. But honestly, but this is episode 3, and really the standout of the show, I believe, in my opinion, is Babu Sise. He plays a hybrid, and he's a cyborg, and he's just, the whole episode, I was enthralled. I couldn't tear my eyes away from him. So if you guys haven't caught that,
Nice.
I really would highly recommend it.
Nice.
And then I also watched the first couple of episodes of, it's not like a super, like podcasty title. The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox.
Ah, yes. Look, it's a podcasty title.
Right? It's like
It's
super
like, yeah.
oh.
Yeah,
it's,
exactly.
It's a true crime. But,
It's true crime,
you know?
right? Exactly.
Yeah. Which is an interesting, dramatization of that story of the murder of Meredith Kircher and the trial and conviction and later release of Amanda Knox. But I wanted to watch it because it's executive produced by Monica Lewinsky.
Oh, okay.
And, she and Knox herself have taken a really strong stand about showing light on, like, more sympathetic light on women who are maligned in the press for things that they maybe were not in control of, which I thought was really an interesting take on it.
Interesting.
It's an interesting story. The story is, you know, of course, of the murder of a 21-year-old in Italy and what happens to the people who are involved in her death. And it's only the first couple episodes are out, but it's an interesting way of shooting it. It's very much drawing on the popularity of true crime and the sensationalism that brings people to that.
I'm all about it. I am a true crime junkie. And whenever those documentaries come up on Netflix, I mean, Dave roasts me about it on the regular. It's like, what don't you watch that's a crime, drama, or horror? And it's like, I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
Like, I have a hard time watching some of the, like, dramatized crime stuff. Like, my parents love the FBI series.
Yeah.
Because there's like 14 of them.
Yeah.
I can't, like, viscerally, I can't watch that stuff. I don't know what it is.
So
like,
are you talking about the Dick Wolf stuff? Are you talking about the Dick Wolf stuff that's like on CBS?
Yeah. Like old Law and Order episodes.
Yes.
Sure. Great. I'm into that. Like
Same.
the procedural. Awesome. The newer ones, they're like so viscerally violent sometimes.
They are.
That I like can't sit through them.
Yeah.
But like, you give me a story about somebody that got killed in 1975 and you want to tell me about how the police weren't talking to each other? I'm seated.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Yeah. And a lot of those, like, the reboot of, Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix is really good.
Yeah.
I really like
I loved
that.
it.
And then.
So wonderful.
Yeah. And, the Trainwreck series on Netflix is also very good. And, Don't F with Cats, the people that make those series are really, really good. So, and I'm addicted, you know, I can't help it. So, you know, we saw recently the true crime about the Gabby Petito, murder. And then, we saw then we've talked about recently all the kidsploitation, influencer, Debbie Frankie, all that stuff. And those documentaries are so well done. And I really appreciate that. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Agree 100%.
Yeah.
And then most importantly, and probably biggest, I was able to go to the Hollywood Bowl last night to see Music of the Maestro, a tribute to John Williams. And it was, as always, incredible. They picked, he and David picked a enormous selection of his works, and it was just really wonderful. It started with Hook.
Mm-hmm.
It went into Jaws and E.T., and then Love Basketball, and of course closed with Star Wars. And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was so wonderful. And I always find it to be a privilege to be able to go to those shows this weekend. Even without John there conducting in person, it's still so moving and what he's done for cinema.
It really is. I can't tell you how many times, I'll listen to music from, a John Williams or a Horner or Silvestri or any one of those wonderful people, but definitely John, because a lot of us grew up on John Williams scores, and just listening to the vinyl, like, it just transports you. Like, I get emotional when I hear it. Like, I almost want to start crying when I hear it. It's so good.
Yeah.
Because I remember exactly where I was when I heard it the first time. And there's nothing more emotionally satisfying than going back to like a happy place in your life.
Yep.
And knowing that man is responsible, George Lucas is responsible for it too, but it came from his depth of knowledge. This is something AI cannot do. AI cannot do that. And a human being, through learning and life experience and studying the craft, created that. And human beings executed that.
Yep.
And human beings experienced that. And it was so visceral, and it still is to me. And it's great that you were able to do that. And did you tell me his son was conducting, or no?
No, David Newman conducted.
Okay.
I feel like David is another like prolific. Hold on, let me pull up his IMDb, because you're going to be like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yes.
He is a composer. He composed The Brave Little Toaster, Anastasia.
Oh, of course.
He's over 100 films, things that we love, and West Side Story, the most recent.
And Disney fans, no doubt, will love that. So
yes, Cruella, The Grinch.
Yes. That's where I've heard of him. Sure.
Yes, he's incredible. He's a wonderful storyteller and conductor, and he's got such a great rapport with the musicians of the LA Phil.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That it's great.
It is great. It is wonderful. Did you tear up?
Always.
That's
Especially, I had never seen Love Basketball with a live orchestra before. Love Basketball is the short film that Kobe Bryant produced and wrote and worked with John to compose the score of for his Academy Award before he passed.
Yes.
And he narrates it. So it was the LA Phil playing the score written by John Williams with Kobe Bryant talking about basketball, and the animated short film playing where it's talking about him as a kid and falling in love with the sport. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not even a sports fan. I don't care about this. But I was like, it's so moving and visceral and wonderful.
So did they do the live score and then they did the voiceover on top of it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Jeez. So good.
Yeah.
All right.
It was just wonderful.
That's great. I'm glad you experienced that. I love getting these reviews. That's amazing. Well, for my week, not so amazing, in terms of what I watched. Amazing in every other reason. I have to tell you, so it's been a busy week at work. Even, with Kristen, going for a medical procedure, it was busy, and then me taking care of the kids, and then also podcasting, and then work, cause I had to call you and be like, I can't podcast tonight. I got to move it, because I hardly slept this week, but I'm good now. So I hardly saw anything except catching up on Wednesday, which is always great. And, I can't tell you how much I love this cast. And Tim Burton, still wonderful. I'm glad that his hand is still doing episodes of this show and is guiding this show, because I think that's the one thing I love about series like this is making sure that guiding force, that amazing director, is still there with his voice, or her voice, whomever it is, it's steering the ship, which I love, because, that's part of that storytelling. It's like being a showrunner for a show. You just gotta be hands on to make sure that comes with your creative stamp. Something that is not so creative per se, but is totally got me is I'm watching Love Island USA, and I can't help myself. I am enthralled. I can't believe that they left me on they basically it's like Bachelor in Paradise, and people that listen to this, there's a bunch of Disney people that listen to this and goes, Aljon, you're falling for this schlock. And I have to say, yes, I am falling for the schlock. Okay. I can't help myself. I'm sucked in. But these people, are paired up with these people naturally. They're just beautiful people. It's a train wreck, and I'm here for it. I can't help it. My wife sucked me in, and I can't help it. And she's not all to blame, because I could totally just turn the other way and play guitar in my studio. But no, I just go back out there for what it's worth. Now I am a fan of luchadors and wrestling. As you know, it stems from my childhood. I still follow it. I did see the AAA Triple Mania show that they had on YouTube, which is a great way for American audiences to be exposed to Mexican wrestling. And it was amazing. So if you're really a big fan of that and some of the American style being brought in to open it up for a wider audience, go for it. AAA is amazing and death-defying and so much fun. And there's something about the Wild Abandon and the characters, the Technicos, the good guys, and the Rudos, the bad guys that go in, and they have these great, entertaining matches, and you'll love AAA Mania. From one of the globe's oldest wrestling promotions, AAA. And having said that, I also am a fan of true crime and did watch something on Vice. Vice is a great network for that kind of stuff. But they had a recent documentary, The Dark Side of the Ring, and they actually had a documentary about Shannon Spurl, who played Daphne in wrestling in WCW back in the 90s and 2000s. And she had committed an act on herself, for lack of a better term, because if we say it, it will get demonetized. So we can't say that. But she committed an act against herself, and it was so sad because I loved her character. She was kind of like the original goth queen, and goth culture was starting to be very prominent. And then through the course of finding herself as an actress and coming into the world of professional wrestling, she got hurt, and then getting hurt in the process, she felt like I think she probably had some type of brain injury or something like that. And she was also dealing with bipolar disorder, and she spiraled out of control, and friends tried to help her and everything, and it just didn't come in time. And it was very sad because I really liked her character. And it's very sad. So if you check out the story of Shannon Spurl, the original Scream Queen, check it out on Vice. May she rest in peace. She passed away at the age of 46, and it's very sad. But her legacy will live on in her fans like myself. What have you been watching? Please check it out. Let us know in the show notes. Send us those emails or voicemails, and we'll check it out in an upcoming episode.
Skull Rock Podcast. This week in Disney and pop culture.
All right, box office news. My goodness, Kat. Let's look at the charts courtesy of The Hollywood Reporter. Can you believe 2.9 billion streamers for Happy Gilmore 2? I can't believe it.
I don't. I just don't. But hey, man, good for them.
Well, I did see Happy Gilmore 2. I gave it a very good review. I mean, it's for what it is. It's Adam Sandler. Once again, it's like he hasn't lost a step. It's what you would expect from a sequel 29 years in the making. All right. Is it over the top? Hell yeah, it's over the top. Is it funny? Yes, it's Adam Sandler. And for the kind of flack he's been getting recently, I guess, for films like Pixel, and I guess Pixel came out 10 years ago now. I know, right? I found it funny because I know what I'm in for when I see somebody like Adam Sandler. And so, yeah, it's great. So a lot of people streaming it, and according to The Hollywood Reporter, Netflix versus YouTube, July was a sixth straight month that Netflix and YouTube have taken a record high share of viewing, with 47.3% of TV uses in the Nielsen ratings. That is huge. 43.3% of people like us stream, 18.4% broadcast, 22.2% on cable, and 21.1% other, or 12.1% other. That's huge for streaming, as streaming continues to dominate. It's amazing. Yeah. In the top series, of streaming. Let's give our top 5 here. The most viewed streaming series of the week, Untamed on Netflix is number 1. Number 2, The Hunting Wives. Number 3, Bluey on Disney Plus. It's great. Yeah. I love Bluey. We do stream it a lot in this house. Big Bang Theory and Blind Spot rounds out the top 5. And our top 5 movies streaming, Happy Gilmore 2. K-pop Demon Hunters, number 2. Did you see this one?
No, not yet.
Okay, I'm gonna have to see it. The original Happy Gilmore, number 3. Number 4, Hotel Transylvania 3, Summer Vacation. It's great. And Medea's Destination Wedding rounds out the top 5. Good stuff. In the box office, let's take a look. Weapons at number 1. Crazy film. Over the weekend grossed $24.4 million. And a total of $88.5 million. I think it's a success for a film, almost indie nature, this film, don't you think? I say almost indie. It's because the vibe is almost indie, but it is distributed by Warner Brothers, so it's definitely not an indie film. Yeah. They paid a lot of money for those rights. So, a movie that you saw several times, Freaker Friday, number 2, weekend grossing at $14.2 million, totaling $54.5. I think they are making their money back.
Definitely.
Nobody 2 from Universal, $9.2 million. This is kind of a film that, I have no idea what this is about. Do you know about Nobody?
Yes. Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Love Bob Odenkirk. This is a sequel to like a sleeper hit of a couple years ago about like a normal guy who is actually like a government operative and is like always punching people in the face. And in this one, I guess he like goes on vacation with his family and gets pulled into a bunch of things. But I haven't seen this one. It wasn't really on my list of things that I wanted to see. I feel like they didn't do a lot of press for it. Mm-hmm. But like Christopher Lloyd is in this movie.
Yeah, like, how about that? Yeah. Well,
it's a lot.
Well, there you go. Oh, good for them.
Yeah,
Well, it opened at 9.2 million. There we are. Fantastic Four drops to number 4. 9 million, still holding out. $247 million total gross so far. I saw a doc recently about what's going on with Marvel and Disney. And I think part of the reason, some of the world has closed off, recently, and the Chinese market isn't quite as enamored, if you will, with some of American imported films. I mean, they're very selective, obviously, with their government. So I know that a lot of that box office that, especially for films like Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts, as well lauded as they are, they're not going to receive the type of box office returns because parts of the world do not get to see this film. And, parts of, Europe, if you will, if you know what I'm talking about. So it's like one of those things where, we just have to recalibrate and understand that, yes, it didn't have a B billion attached to it, but it's still pretty darn good considering the markets that it showed in, so I think people just have to remember that.
I agree.
And then Bad Guys 2. Rounds out number 5. Superman drops to number 6 this week. So, but still doing tremendous numbers at the box office considering the summer is winding down. As I said, the fall is right here, right around the corner next week as September rolls in. What are your thoughts, Kat? Anything to add about the box office news?
I just scrolled to the bottom of this and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 35th anniversary coming in at number 10 this week is kind of sending me to the moon right now. But it was a slow week for new releases, but just having this on there, 35 years later as a elder millennial who just wore the VHS tape out of this is, kind of amazing.
I love seeing the Ninja Turtles, being there and I'm all about it. So. Great.
It's crazy.
Crazy. I love it. And, by the way, this week's most consumed search and shared content, Nautilus is part of that on AMC Plus. Prime Target on Apple TV, 90-Day Hunt for Love on Discovery, Daredevil Born Again. That's great. I'm glad Daredevil's coming back on there. Danadan. Did you know about that show, Danadan on Hulu? I have no idea what that is. I'm going to have to check that out. But anyway, those are some of the things that are trending this week in shared content. Very interesting stuff indeed. Let's move on. I need to start listening to the Billboard Hot 100 just to get in there. But, I have no idea who some of these bands are in the top 100 and the pop charts now. I'm so a rock guy, you know?
No,
but it's crazy. Let's talk about some Disney stuff. Kat, are you familiar with this, Legacy Award for the most complimented Disney World cast member? You familiar with that?
I just caught a little bit about it, but tell me what's going on with it.
Okay. So this is from the Disney Parks blog. I'm going to move this story up here so we can read. Whether you're heading down, through an adventure on Runaway Railway or having breakfast resis over at Hollywood and Vine over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, chances are you may have ran into this cast member, which is interesting. And it's about Willie, and Willie is one of the photo passers. I love the photo pass. Willie Jackson, a photo pass photographer who's captured the hearts of guests and cast members alike with his positive attitude and outgoing work ethic. And so he's been doing this for 15 years. And chances are he's probably taken our picture as a family, because we always get our pictures at Hollywood Studios together. And I'm almost certain he has. And so he was, I guess, given breaks the record for most Disney World cast member compliments, with more than 1,000 mobile cast member compliments from guests. Now you can do that now with the Disney app, which is amazing. And I've been able to do that several times when I was out there. But across Walt Disney World, over 1.4 million cast compliments have been submitted with guests, with over 1,000 of these compliments just for Willie. And that's amazing. So what happens now? He gets a Walt Disney Legacy Award. How about that? Pretty neat, huh?
I love it.
I love it when the cast members at the parks who make our time there so enjoyable are able to continue to, spread their love of the parks and people, and make our dreams just that much better when we go to the parks. I love that. Good stuff. All right, Kat. The Electric Mayhem arrives at Rock and Roll Roller Coaster, starring the Muppets. Kat, they just released some art for this, and we're talking to Bill Beretta last week, who was integral, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out last week's episodes with Bill Beretta, you should, being integral to Muppets Tonight and the last few films, and Muppets Mayhem series on Disney Plus that was, unceremoniously kind of cut short, which I love that series. But tell us about what's happening at Rock and Roller Coaster.
Well, we got our first look at some incredible concept art of the Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets, starring Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, coming to Hollywood Studios in 2026. I'm in love with this concept art. It features the band. It features Skeeter, Miss Piggy, Kermit, and some sound engineer penguins, because obviously the sound engineers are penguins.
I love it.
What else would they be? The only thing missing from this image, like I was saying on Dining at Disney this week, is Ken Marino. So hopefully Ken Marino is going to be in there at some point. But I'm really excited for this. I think it's going to be really great. The new facade with the paint job that resembles the truck and everything that's coming. I just really hope that it's going to be silly. Mm-hmm. I want it to be so silly.
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've got to explore all the crazy musical tropes. I would think, when they're in there, that they're having their lines checked and they're recording, and you're in the midst of seeing them in the recording studio putting together the album that they never did for the record label, and kind of bringing that story thread from the TV show coming back over there, I mean,
Yes.
or recording a follow-up album, just one of those things. And it looks like Piggy's in there, and as well as Kermit. And you mentioned to me, we talked a little bit about this on Dining at Disney this past week about Scooter, right?
Oh, about Skeeter? I hope he's an animatronic.
Yes.
I want him to be an animatronic so badly. If he's just like a projection, I'm going to be so mad. I want him to be an animatronic. Please be an animatronic. The Penguins too, for that matter.
Yeah, I feel like they should be, right? I mean, you're going to be behind that area, and yeah, so it'll be nice. I want to see, fans are just so torn about it because they miss Muppet Vision 3D, and I feel like this is a great way to introduce them, put them in an existing ride. And I love Aerosmith, like the next band, like the next guy, Aerosmith is my band. I love Aerosmith. I'm going to miss, could you, grab my black Les Paul? Like, I want that to happen, but can we just be for Janice instead? Like, can we just do that? Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And so,
what songs do you want them to cover? What songs do you think?
Man. What songs don't I want them to cover? I feel like,
I know, right?
I feel like they could probably do, a couple Muppets classics. I mean, what do you do in a minute? Cause the ride is like a minute long, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, they have to do all their, I don't know. They have to do a bunch of
it's a lot.
their songs. I mean, it's a lot to kind of put in a medley. And the good thing about this is, hopefully they'll record several different types of medleys, because, you could write it so many different times and have different soundtracks every time you go. Kind of like, the Rip Roaring Rocket ride over
like
Universal,
Guardians.
Guardians, same way. Exactly.
Yeah. I think if they don't do it like Guardians for this, that's a miss. Like it needs to have, 6 or 7 options that you can get.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And,
exactly.
Maybe even an Aerosmith song.
Yeah. And I hope they have, St. John, who's the DJ. It's like, hold on to your hats. Let's have some of the DJ stuff back there,
Oh my God. No, it's gotta be, but it should be Pepe.
Oh my God. I guess it could be Pepe, right?
It should be Pepe. It should be Bill.
Why not?
Hold on to your hats. Okay.
Okay. Why not? Let's do that. I like that. I'm down with that. Another thing I'm down with, yes. We'll be seeing the Rock and Roller Coaster kind of take flight here, at G-Force Records, next year, right? Is it going to be next year?
2026.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It'll be here before we know it. Mm-hmm. The Beacon Barrel is a brand new experience, that's going to be there at, the Pirates themed tavern at Magic Kingdom. Starting later this week, actually, as we talk about it. I'm looking forward to it. Kristen and I, we're going in the fall for Food and Wine Festival, and we're trying our dangdest to get into this place. We want to go in so bad. But tell us a little bit about what people can discover in this brand new area.
Beacon Barrel is a Pirates of the Caribbean themed tavern over at Magic Kingdom. It invites swashbucklers and buccaneers alike from across the 7 seas to enjoy seaworthy sips and snacks while being immersed in the pirate life. The Mess is the first lively space. Here you can look up to see the ship's bell from Captain Red's first ship gifted to Mary at the tavern's founding. Read from the ride. Tables to gather, and then in the far corner you can see the Brig, which still bears bars and framework from its past life as the Brig.
Love it.
The Cursed Bar is brimming with an impressive collection of rare bottles and prize spoils kept behind lock and key in a massive skull-shaped bar. It's anchored to the side of the Mess. It's an eye catcher, and at the center of the whole place is the enchanted rum bottle. An ornate bottle of grog, which sits in place in honor its own special cove, gifted by a powerful enchantress. And perched atop the bar, Rummy,
nice.
animatronic parrot, welcomes patrons, keeps an eye on the crew, has a shaved chest with a tattoo. I'm 100% on board with Remy.
Okay.
The different spaces are really great looking. We saw some sneak peeks at their menu last week, which looks insane with all the crazy drinks, and Krakens catch cold salads with octopus tentacles and all sorts of stuff. I can't wait to see this, but I heard a rumor that they're booked up. Like those reservations are going fast.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah,
I can't wait to try and see it when I'm there in March. But if you guys get in, we got to do a whole show about it. Obviously.
Yeah, I'd love to. We've joined a Facebook group just so we can try to get resis for this place, but looks amazing. I mean, if you like Trader Sam's in all of its glory, you know, they're starting to do these really cool themed, you know, bars, and I really, really dig it. So, looking forward to more of those type of experiences as the parks kind of grow and evolve. You know, it's crazy to think that we have, you know, alcohol at Magic Kingdom, but that was like 10 years in the making now, you know, just slowly, you know, bringing it into the parks with bars and things. So.
Yeah. And I really do think that this is a great like test case for them. Because with, Villains, whatever coming in the near future, I think that's going to be a really interesting opportunity for dining and cocktail experiences like this. And if the appetite is there, which it appears to be because they're booked out till November, probably past that now. I think if it's successful, it's going to skyrocket the amount of experiences that they're going to start building into places.
100%. I mean, it justifies the cost of them putting these experiences in because, I mean, it's no small feat, but people want that interactivity. People yearn so much, and you're an experiential producer yourself, Kat. It's all about the experience, you know, and those kind of memories you can't take away. That's what people want to go to the parks to do. It's a theme park for a reason. They want to be immersed. They want to feel and experience, taste, see, smell, everything. And so this is great. Speaking of experiences, Jock Lindsay's, one of my favorite places there at Disney Springs, has now put up their Halloween themed, decorations. And I have to say, I love it. So the new Halloween hanger bar decor is here for the first time ever, doing it over there at Jock Lindsay's, which we love, the Indiana Jones themed bar at Disney Springs. And they've tricked it out, and it's great. If you happen to be down there, please check it out. They have all kinds of really wonderful, decor there, pumpkins, lighting, which I love. And it's just all done in a great style that would be befitting of this hanger bar. They've also changed up the menu to be a little, Halloween-esque as well. So please go over there and check it out. A couple things, you know, I was going to do some other stuff, but I'm not. I'm just going to say, it's been a very short week for Disney and pop culture news, but I will go into, one of our segments, I guess, that, we do every single week.
Obituary roll call.
This week in our untimely passings, we do have Jerry Adler, who passed away from Sopranos and The Good Wife, passing away at the age of 96. He's known for his roles in Sopranos, Rescue Me, and The Good Wife. He brought gravitas and warmth to supporting characters that often anchored the ensemble cast. Were you a big fan of Sopranos? Did you see any of that stuff? Or is that,
not to like, you know, make it about me, but I always felt The Sopranos was culture appropriation for Sicilian people. So
yeah, well,
no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I was going to say that because, you know, that is part of your bloodline, right? I kid, but also not really.
No. I love The Sopranos. Love The Good Wife, actually.
Yes. Good show.
Really great.
Good show.
Yeah.
Good show. David Ketchum passes away. Agent 13 on Get Smart at the age of 97. Wow, what a life. This guest star, he portrayed salesman selling real estate and petroleum on the Andy Griffith Show back in 1967 and was a member of a divorce club that offers great vacation rates on the Mary Tyler Moore Show back in 1970 that I watched when I was growing up. I also watched Get Smart because I absolutely adored that whole cast, and he passes away at the age of 97. What a life. And then this one hits a little close to home. Brent Hinds passes away. The Mastodon co-founder and former guitarist dies at the age of 51, so young. Brent, the founder and former lead guitarist of the heavy metal band Mastodon, has passed away. He was 51. He died in a motorcycle accident in Atlanta on Wednesday night. A representative for the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office told The Hollywood Reporter that SUV failed to yield at an intersection, causing the crash. And he recently had left the band Mastodon that he founded for other endeavors. And his band was performing over the weekend and said, "We're deeply proud and beyond grateful for the music and history we shared. And we wish him nothing but success and happiness in future endeavors." And then he passes away. Literally just a month ago, he left the band. In March. And they had a fitting tribute to him over the weekend. But I met Brett. He was an artist of mine that I worked with, and we put out a signature guitar for him, I think, back in 2018. And just the nicest guy. Really, really nice guy. Met him at a show for Brendan Small, who did Metalocalypse, the cartoon for Cartoon Network, and he was playing in kind of a surf rock kind of band. And they played together, and he was just super nice, really kind. Didn't have to be, but it's just so sad. Just so sad. He was just 51. He's my age. So it's very sad. So rest in peace, Brent. You were a really cool guy. Your music lives on, but you will be missed. Mm-hmm. Let's move on now and get into Dave. He's on the show. Even though Kat's been filling in for him, he's on the show. We've got a sit-down interview with the tremendous Bill Kroyer. Enjoy this multi-part interview. This is part one right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Hey, let's chat.
Let's chat.
So let's chat now. Let's chat afterwards. And he said, let's chat again.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, we are here with animation director and animator Bill Kroyer, who has had an incredibly illustrious career going all the way back to TRON and before. Bill, welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and I said animation. I said animation director and animator. I should also add to that author, because you've got a new book out, Mr. In Between.
Yeah, it's the kind of the story of my life. I can attribute it mostly to my wife, Sue. I retired and I moved to Wisconsin, and she told me, you should spend your winter months writing down everything that happened to you, because if you don't, you're going to forget it.
I think that's awesome. So, I want to talk about the book later on in our conversation, but I wanted to mention that. I just want our listeners to know that Bill's got this new book out called Mr. In Between, and it's really a firsthand account of the huge shift that happened in animation, from hand-drawn animation to computer animation, and Bill was right on the knife's edge of that. But Bill, before we get into that, I want to ask you a question I ask all of our guests. How did you get into animation? When did you get the bug?
It was an accidental thing. I grew up in a working class family in Chicago. My father worked in a factory. He never knew anybody who made a living as an artist. He didn't support that at all. So I wasn't allowed to take art classes, even though I liked to draw a lot. So I became, on the school paper in high school, I did a lot of cartoons, but I was an editor, and I won a big journalism scholarship to Northwestern University, which is the Medill School of Journalism, one of the top schools in the nation. I went there. Cut to 3 years later, I'm in an advertising class, and I have to make a 30-second ad, and all the kids in the class are shooting live action ads, and I'm doing cartoons for the papers. I thought, I'm going to make a cartoon ad. So I went to the bookstore, and guess what book I got? The book everybody got. Preston Blair, animation. the book everybody learned on.
The Forster, right? It was
Yeah,
the
Foster, whatever that was.
Foster's art books.
Yeah, yeah, and that big book, the big yellow.
Yeah, I have my
So
copy over on the shelf.
I brought that back to my little apartment and I started reading. This is how you do it. You draw a drawing and you take a picture, do another drawing, take a picture. What was funny was the only camera I could get was a Super 8 camera, and a Super 8 camera won't focus down to a 12 field. The Super 8 camera will only focus up to like a 18-inch wide piece of paper. So I got big like butcher paper, and I animated on these gigantic pieces of butcher paper, and I animated a snake because I didn't want to have to animate arms and legs and everything. So I animated a snake with a hat. And I forget what the ad was for, but I animated this little guy, and he's supposed to come in, and he stands up, and he turns around, he looks at the camera, and he winks. And I did this animation, and in those days, it was all film. There was no digital, so I had to send it to the drugstore to be developed. So I took it down, the little reel of Super 8 film, took it down there, waited 2 days, got the film back, reeled it up on the little Super 8 projector, projected it on the screen. I'm watching this, and this little guy comes up on the screen, looks at me, and winks. And I had created life. I had made a living being, and that hit me like a thunderbolt, like a thunderbolt. It was the cathartic. It was the seminal moment of my whole life, and that moment my life changed. I decided I got to be an animator. That one thing, and from that moment, I have never sought to do anything else in life but to animate. And I just had a lot of lucky breaks after that. I started self-teaching myself and learning about animation, and I was in a food co-op. So I decided to make an animated film about how you organize buying clubs to make our work easier. And I made an animated film about how you organize a buying club. And by guys, Loop College in Chicago saw the film at a church meeting, and they called me up. They found me, and they said, "We're gonna hire you to make educational films." And so that's how I became an animator.
Let me ask you a question. That first film with the snake and the hat and coming up into frame and winking, how did that go over in the class? Were you the only one who did an animated advertisement?
Probably the only person ever to do an animated advertising at that time. And I don't remember that actually. I tell you, I was so blown away with my own personal reaction to it that I completely didn't matter what anybody else thought of it. They could have thought it was brilliant. They could have thought it was stupid. Irrelevant to me, totally irrelevant. And in a way, that in a microcosm is an important lesson for all animators, Seek satisfaction in your own work. Don't become dependent on what everybody else thinks of your work.
Right.
I mean, strive to find satisfaction in what you do, and then you'll have a happier life.
So you got hired to do educational films. What happened with those?
Well, after a couple of years of not knowing anyone in animation, totally self-taught, couldn't find anybody in Chicago doing it. Chuck Jones came to Chicago, to the Chicago Film Festival, the most famous animator in the world, creator of Bugs Bunny. He was it was maybe the guest at the Chicago Film Festival. And of course, I went to his lecture, and afterward, I actually went to a party that he was invited to, and I asked him where he was staying. And I can't believe I did this, but I took my Super 8 projector to his hotel room, and I knocked on the door, and he answered. I said, "Mr. Jones, I'm that animator you met. Can I show you my film?" And you can believe this. Would you let somebody like that in your apartment, in your hotel room? This is this is 1974, right?
It was a more trusting period, I think.
Yeah, and animation, it's hippie time. Everybody's hippies, and we're being cool with everybody, and we're picking up hitchhikers. And Chuck Jones and the other thing about it, the animation community is that big, right?
Yeah.
If you drew and you were an animator, you were sort of automatically, in an inside world that very few people were in. And Chuck Jones, I say in the book, I don't think there's any greater testament to what a wonderful man he was, that he let me into that room and he sat patiently and watched this horrible little film I had made and watched the whole thing. And when it was over, he said to me, "You're telling me you're self-taught and you did all this yourself?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, I think you have talent. I think you could make it in Hollywood." And Chuck Jones, the greatest animator in the world, is telling me this. And I immediately went home to my mom. I said, I'm leaving. I'm going to Hollywood. And I packed up my van and off I went.
And so you essentially quit making the industrial film or the educational films, and you drove from Chicago to Los Angeles.
I did. And, you know, I've always been a great buff of history and a kind of a romantic at heart. And since I had no one there in LA waiting for me, except Chuck Jones, who of course wasn't really waiting for me, and I'd never really seen the West, I decided to take my time. So I loved camping, you know, and I had an old camper van that I had bought. And it took me 3 months. I went down and I went through every national park from Chicago to Los Angeles, Carlsbad Caverns, Big Bend National Park, you know, Canyonlands, Grand Canyon. And I just had a really, what I call the Great Western Trip. And I finally arrived in LA in March and was ready to go. And I went to Chuck's office. He would had that place on Sunset and Vine there in the tower. And I went up there and his secretary, well, let me go right in. I said, "Hey, Mr. Jones, it's me, Bill Kroyer from Chicago." And he goes, "Oh," and I said, "Yeah, well, you know, you told me to come out and I'm here." And he goes, "That's great. Good luck." And good luck. Don't you have a job? And he goes, "No, I'm not hiring. I've got nothing going on." And that was my welcome to LA. So the only person I knew in LA basically said, "Sorry, I have nothing for you." But of course, what he did have was a couple of phone numbers, and he gave me here, call this guy, call that guy. So I started going to people, and that began my chain of interviews of every single animation studio in LA at the 1975, and there were not many, as you probably know.
Yeah, sure. It was a small group.
Yeah, and I was turned up by every single one. But I'm going around these, I'm getting turned down, and I thought, you know, why don't I go for the brass ring? Why don't I just I'll see if I can go to Disney, which was everyone's dream. So I called Disney, and amazingly, they said, "Yeah, you can come in like 2 days from now." And I went over there, and to me, it's one of the coolest chapters in the book is my description of my wandering into Disney in my ponytail and my dirty old beat up van. You know, in the days when Disney was as clean as you could possibly, you know, as
Yeah.
Ed Hansen heading the department, you know, the nine old men, you were not allowed to see them or speak to them. And that whole experience of going through Disney as on a little tour and applying was it's really something to read about. And of course, they turned me down because they said, "Well, you don't have art school. You have no portfolio." I didn't have a portfolio. Remember, I'd never been to art school. Never had an art class. Even then, I just, I really had hit the end of my rope. I couldn't get hired, and I didn't have what was needed. So
Uh, Bill, you're freezing up on us. Aljon, can you hear me? You can. Okay. All right. So let's mark this. I don't know, Bill, if you could.
I haven't frozen in anybody else's podcast yet.
Yeah, I don't know why, but you just froze on us. So if you want to just step back to they turned you down. It could,
Anyway,
it could,
okay, so anyway, okay, look, give it a beat. So then I finished my interview with Disney, and they turned me down. And at this point, everybody had turned me down, and I really didn't. I thought maybe this is not for me. Maybe Hollywood is not for me. And then, miraculously, almost the morning I was going to leave, I got a phone call from Ray Thursby at a small studio called Spun Buggy Works, one of the places I had gone in. And he said, "You were in here the other day. Are you available?" And I went, "Absolutely." And he said, "How cheap will you work?" And I'll work for anything. And he said, "Okay, come on in tomorrow. You can do in-betweens." And I said, "I'll be there." And I hung up the phone. I was so excited. Then I thought, what's an in-between? I've never really done an in-between, you know, because I never worked for anybody else. And then I went in the next morning to Spun Buggy, and that became the beginning of a string of miraculous events that basically comprised my career in Hollywood.
So how long were you at Spun Buggy for? And where did you go after that?
I was at Spun Buggy for 2 years, and
Oh, wow.
miraculously, the animation director of Spun Buggy was Frank Terry.
Oh, what a wonderful guy. Wonderful guy.
Probably one of the greatest animator educators in the history of LA, happens to be the animation director of the studio that I walk into as a complete ignoramus, inexperienced, bottom line in-betweener. And under Frank's tutelage, I rose really quickly through the ranks. The nice thing about Spun Buggy was you could get promoted as fast as you wanted, as long as you didn't ask for more money. So I went from basic in-betweener to like a key assistant to an assistant, and within 6 months I was animating. And I animated for a year and a half, and I did every kind of commercial you could imagine. You could not have had a better training experience than what I had. I mean, I was doing, Raid Bugs and Clairol Herbescent shampoos and like just Charlie the Tuna. I did all these commercials. I became a really good animator, a really hardworking, a really fast and efficient animator. And then I thought, you know what? I'm ready now. I'm going to apply for Disney. And I went over to Disney and I applied and I sent my reel in. And by miraculous coincidence, it was right when all the CalArts guys were applying. So John Musker and Ron Clements and Tim Burton and all his guys were all coming out of CalArts literally at exactly that moment, and they were like opening the doors. And they came to my name and they said, well, this guy is not from CalArts. He has no art school at all. But he does have this reel of commercials. And of all people, Don Bluth spoke up and said, yeah, he's the only one applying that has actually a set of reels of commercials. So you got to give him a chance. So they allowed me to take the test, the entrance exam for the Disney training program. And I did that and I passed and I got my foot in the door and I ended up in the training program, sharing the room with Henry Selick, John Musker, Brad Bird, and Dan Haskett. And
I mean, it sounds to me like Spun Buggy was really your art school.
That's exactly what it was. I was paid to have the greatest art training in America at that time. I literally was paid. I didn't have to pay tuition. I was paid to come in every day and learn everything there was to know about animation. And the other thing about Spun Buggy, we did such a variety of work, and we also had to write our own sheets and everything. And Spun Buggy was one of the first companies to do things like backlit exposures on Codaliths and everything. So I was learning about exposures and multiple passes and multi-layer exposure sheets and very sophisticated stuff at the time. So it was funny because when I got into Disney, I don't know if you remember, if anyone's ever told you about that Disney training program, but when you were accepted to the training program, there were 2 4-week tests. So you had to do a little film. You got 4 weeks to do one test, and then the review board reviewed you. And one of the guys in the room was out after that. This guy, Arlen Barron, he didn't even make it past 4 weeks. But me and Musker and Brad and Henry all made it past the first. And then the second test was another 4 weeks. So I thought, I'm really going to blow these guys away. I'm going to make an entire short film. Because everybody else was doing a one-scene test, like an old lady opening a jar of mayonnaise or something. Because the CalArts guys were used to working at like a student pace, right? I'm a professional commercial animator, man. I can animate a commercial in 2 days. So I did an entire short film in 4 weeks. It was like I did the layouts, I did the backgrounds, I did all the animation. And this is a 9 to 5. You're not allowed to take it home. And it was actually a really nice little short film. It's on my website. If you go to my website, mrinbetween.org, you can watch it. And you think I did that thing. And, when I started teaching students who would have a year and a half to do a senior thesis, I'm going, why aren't you done yet? I did an entire film in 4 weeks. And when you watch that film, it's a fully animated, fully in between short film. And they were kind of blown away by that. And that's how I got hired at Disney.
And I take it everybody else was who was there for the second part of that training, because I've had Ted Kiersey on, I've had John Musker on. A lot of these people have talked about that training program that Eric Larson was overseeing during that period, and but everybody who was left after the first 4 weeks got hired.
That's correct. And in my case, we had to go right to work on Pete's Dragon as in-betweeners because they were in the crunch on Pete's Dragon. They were, facing a deadline. So before we got a chance to actually start being trained as new animators, we had to jump in and do the grunt work, which we all did.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, we started working with Eric and, doing scenes of our own and actually getting some production scenes. We started getting some scenes from Smallwood and everything to do under Eric as part of our training program. So I consider that period to be really the highlight of my life in animation. It was only a few months in that situation, working directly with Eric Larson, having him go over my drawings. Actually, I'd sit over his shoulder and he'd draw. And at the time, I really was fully conscious of what a blessing that was. I felt like I was standing over the shoulder of Leonardo da Vinci, or, Michelangelo, and watching one of the great people work and having him give advice in his work ethic and his attitude and the principles he taught us of animation have been the bedrock of everything I've ever done for the rest of my life.
He was a gentle soul. I mean, a really patient individual, but just a gentle person, wasn't he?
He was, yes, he was almost like Pope Francis, he was that kind of person. And I'll tell you this, when he passed away and we went to his funeral, I have never before or since seen a funeral where grown men were so emotional about this. These were some of these guys I got up to talk about Eric, the old timers, they could not keep from crying about the fact that he had gone. He was such a loving person and such a special person.
Yeah.
People weren't afraid to show their emotions at that. And I've always remembered that, that could there be a bigger testament to you as a person or an artist to have people have that feeling about you when you've passed? I don't think there is a more sincere, more honest tribute that can be paid to you. It's better than any award you could ever win.
Yeah. Yeah. So you finished the training program, you got thrown into the deep end on Pete's Dragon. And then what did you go on to? You said you did a little work on the small one, which was being directed by Don Bluth.
Yeah, and that's when we, started to have a little bit of our famous rat's nest confrontations with Don Bluth because, Don was reluctant to give us new guys any juicy scenes. He was also even reluctant to have us animate from scratch. He wanted us to follow rotoscope guides. He was shooting live action reference, and he wanted it to be rotoscoped, or he was making us check out scenes from the morgue and copy scenes that had already been done in other films. And we were not happy with that at all. We felt, no, we're here to animate. We want people to animate. And that, of course, came to a head on Fox and Hound when we moved on to that. And Don wanted us to do that. And that was the famous moment when I went up to Ron Miller's office. No animators went upstairs. Ron Miller was like the great and powerful Oz. He was in this third floor office, which no one went to. And I just thought this dissension in the animation ranks seems non-productive. And I wonder if Ron Miller even knows it's happening. So I asked for a meeting and the secretary said, yeah, come up tomorrow. And I went up and I met Ron, and it was in Walt Disney's office, and Walt Disney's office had not changed, of course, since Walt passed away. And for me, sitting in that office and understanding what had taken place in that office, that was kind of a distracting moment. But luckily, I got along well with Ron. We're both kind of football fans and regular guys, and we hit it off pretty well. And I just said to him, there's a lot of disagreement in the animation department about the direction we should be going. And maybe, I don't know if you're aware of this, but, we're not big on this rotoscoping thing. And there's some cool things happening in 2D animation. And I don't know if you'd like to see some things. And he said, yeah, I'd love to see that. Why don't you set up a screening for me? So we set up a screening with some films. I remember we had Sarah Petty's Furies in there as one of the films. And then one day Don Bluth just burst into our office. I was sharing, of course, the suite with Brad Bird and Henry Selick and John Musker. The four of us were in Frank's old office, Frank Thomas's old office.
You mentioned the rat's nest. Can you just sort of explain for our listeners what the rat's nest was?
Well, I'm about to explain that. Don burst in our door and he was just furious. And he said, you're going behind my back and you're bad mouthing me to And I said, no, we are not doing that. Nobody's demonizing you. We're just saying that we admit it. We don't like roto. We don't like using roto. We have a real difference of creative opinion there. And we just thought Ron Miller should be aware that, that there's other opportunities and ways to do it. And he was just so mad. He said, this room is a rat's nest of dissent. It's a rat's nest of trouble. And he stormed out, and we all looked at each other and went, hey, that's kind of a cool name. And so John Musker's fiance, Gail, now Gail Musker, she was the librarian at the time, and she did this beautiful calligraphy of this handwritten rat's nest logo and stuck it up over the door of the room. And our room just became the rallying point for everybody in the department that did not like roto,
Yeah, yeah.
And then, as you probably know, a little while later, Don left the studio with his cadre of loyalists, and because that division had been kind of established, and but that's where it came from. As you probably know that a few years ago, Tina at CTN had a big panel of the rats, and we all got together again and talked about these stories and everything. So
Yeah.
to say the rats have gone on to have distinguished careers, all of the rats.
That would be an understatement. I might add. Yeah, that's something else. What did you guys? How did you guys feel when Don Bluth left and took a group of people with him? Was it a sense of relief? Did the tension dissipate in the building?
Well, I can't speak for everybody else because I was gone. I don't know if what this is kind of ironic is that as we were winding up on Fox and Hound, and Black Cauldron was looming on the horizon, I was not excited about that movie. I had seen they'd rejected Tim Burton's designs. I thought the directors I didn't really think they were that talented. And I was not excited. Just at that moment, Steve Lisberger rolls into town. He's this guy from Boston, and he actually somehow worked his way into Disney and got into our room, and he started pitching us. Said, hey, come and work for me. I'm doing this really exciting little film called Animal Olympics. It's going to be a blast. And I just thought there was something nice about Steve, and I didn't want to do Black Cauldron, and Animal Olympics was going to be Warner Brothers style full animation, cartoony full animation. So I left. I left Disney. Shockingly, I left Disney, and it was a few minutes after I left that Don left. So as I said, I can't really speak about exactly how they felt about that at the time because I was off having a really fun time down in Venice, California, making Animal Olympics.
And if I remember correctly, Roger Allers worked on that.
Well, we ended up having another all-star crew. Yeah, Roger was future director of that. Brad Bird was unceremoniously booted out of Disney. I immediately hired Brad to come down and work with us. We had Dave Steffen, who, of course, went on to become one of the great guys in town. Daryl Rooney, director of many, many television projects. He was a director. Bruce Woodside. We had a real all-star crew on that film. I mean, Steve was so lucky. It was really future just superstars. And we had a blast making the movie because Steve let everybody just kind of do their thing. I mentioned in the book that I think Brad Bird's sequence, he did this ice skating sequence. I do believe that's the only thing that he ever storyboarded, laid out, and fully animated completely by himself. And it's great. It's a hilarious little sequence. So anyway, we did Animal Olympics, and then as you probably know, or it's from the book, you heard it. Toward the end of that, Steve started getting this idea about a film about a video game guy who gets sucked into his own video game. And he came to me and he said, let's start storyboarding these ideas and we got to develop this film and sell it somewhere. So as I wrapped up Animal Olympics, I immediately went on to TRON, doing the original development boards on TRON.
And that was developed outside of Disney, and then Disney picked it up?
Yeah, Disney had nothing to do with it at first. It was not on their radar. We just developed it all at our little studio in Venice, California. And it was remarkable because from the very beginning of that development, that project started acting like a bug light in the night. Anybody in the world who was interested in computer graphics started calling the studio. And probably the most influential person that came our way was Alan Kay, who was one of the 5 Apple fellows. Alan Kay is credited with inventing the laptop. He was And he heard about us. He was living in Palo Alto, and he started flying down on Friday nights on his own money just to meet with us and give his advice and everything on the story. Of course, the benefit he got was that Steve Lisberger had hired a co-writer named Bonnie McBird, and she fell in love with Alan Kay, and they've been married for 40 years now. So that worked out quite well for that. But we developed the whole thing in the warehouse, and Steve went on and pitched it to all the studios in town. It was turned down everywhere except Disney, because of course Disney had hired a young guy named Tom Wilhite. They brought Tom Wilhite in to try to bring some energy into because Disney was so lethargic at that time. It was the Apple Dumpling Gang. Those were the movies they were making. No excitement, no box office. They bring in this young guy and said, juice up our live action. And here's this cutting edge computer graphics story. And Tom Willard just went for it. And all of a sudden, Steve says, hey, guess what? You're going back to Disney. And I was really excited about that.
Yeah, Tom Wilhite's name comes up periodically when we're interviewing guests, and I will say it again. He is an unsung hero of that period at Disney, because he was not only, giving Tron an opportunity, but he gave Tim Burton opportunities and other people opportunities at that studio. He's somebody that I think there needs to be a deeper dive on him, because he really was influential during that period.
Yeah, he was. And we got such a kick out of him because he was so superficially straight-laced. He was meticulously dressed every day, and very restrained. I think he was very young. And I think he did that to try to almost make himself feel older and more authoritative.
Yeah.
John Musker did one of the most hilarious caricatures ever of Tom Wilhite, where he had Tom Wilhite standing on the street corner, and it's a hurricane, and things are blowing by, and the debris, and people are hanging on sideways onto the lamppost. And Tom is just kind of standing there with his hair perfectly in place and his tie perfectly in place, like nothing is upsetting him. I thought it was a wonderful metaphor for how Tom navigated these tumultuous times at Disney. So anyway, thank you, Tom, for bringing us back to Disney. And, I was coming back. I'd left Disney, of course, as an animating, what they called at the time, an animating assistant, because Disney was so cheap. They weren't paying me and Brad and Henry and John and everybody animator scale. They were still paying us assistant scale to do full animation on the pictures.
Yeah.
So when I was coming back 2 years later, Ed Hansen said, well, Bill Kroyer is going to have to come back in as an animating assistant. And Steve Lisberger said, no, he's animation director of the movie. And they got in this big argument, and Steve won. So I came back with a much more enhanced salary and a much more enhanced title, which I was very happy about.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about how did Tron go off? I mean, what was the process once you got back into the studio?
In every way, logistically, politically, technologically, and artistically, that phrase, jumping off a cliff and building your wings on the way down, applies to Tron. I mean, we went into that studio with an idea for a story that was a completely undeveloped story, with ideas for visuals that could not be created at that time. We sold Disney a movie that could not be made at that time. And the next 2 years was a nonstop symbiotic relationship between ourselves, the artists, and the computer guys at the 4 computer companies, in order to just somehow come up with the technology to make these images.
And the process, right? I mean, just not only the technology, but the pipeline to do it.
Well, not even one pipeline. When we started, if you look at the reels, the way what computer graphics looked like in 1980, you can't believe how primitive it was. I mean, it was they were making logos for TV stations, and that was about it. And Tron, as I said, attracted every fledgling computer company, and the only ones that even appeared to have a slightest chance of working on the big screen with 70mm film were Magi Synthavision in New York, and Digital Productions in New York City, Triple I in Culver City, and Robert Abel in West Hollywood. And so Steve signed all 4 of those on, and then we began this process of trying to figure out, well, what part of the movie will we give each one of these 4? Because none of them can make anything close to the whole movie. So And not only that, but all four of them have totally different software and hardware. None of them can talk to each other. Nothing's compatible. Their pipelines are totally different. And how do you go about design and produce under those conditions? And that was just one of the kind of astounding things about the making of Tron is the fact that we were inventing computer graphics as we made the movie. You know, and we would ask them to do this, and they said, we can't do that. And they'd show us a reel. We go, well, wait a minute, you can do that. So we'll just change the story and the storyboards to do that. And that's how we made the movie, is we just pieced together this film with all these different techniques and technologies so it would look like we intended it that way.
And I take it the live action obviously was going to be shot first.
Originally, there was not going to be any live action. You know, when Steve sold that movie to Disney, it was going to be an animated movie.
Oh, okay.
And the original tests of the characters were hand animated characters, and they were going to be done with glowing lines using that Codolith backlit technique.
Yeah.
There are some very early tests of that, but it became obvious to us very early that you couldn't really get character acting and emotions out of glowing lines, you know, you just wouldn't do it. So since computers couldn't, you didn't want to just do traditional 2D animation with cell painting because it wouldn't look electronic, and you couldn't get computers to do anything resembling skin. Steve defaulted to say, we're going to have to do the characters with live actors. Everything else will look electronic, but we'll have to shoot the characters with real actors, and then we'll make them look electronic, and that's what we did.
And was all that live action shot on the stages at the studio?
Yes, it was. And once again, it's a process that had never been done before and will never be done again. It was an insane thing. You know, the idea was to have the characters wear white outfits with black piping that represented circuitry on all black sets. And it was shot with 70 millimeter. Matter of fact, the camera was the same camera David Lean used in Lawrence of Arabia.
Wow.
Thing was, it was shot on high contrast 70 millimeter film, and you had to have tremendous amount of light because you had to have an infinite depth of field because everything had to be in focus. You couldn't have a character go soft focus who was standing 3 feet back because then his lines would be out of focus. Because after the film was shot, every single film had to be printed as an 11 by 17 Codolith. And then from that Codolith, we started producing positives and negatives and hand-painted mats. And then all of those Codoliths would be rephotographed on an animation stand, backlit with colored gels and filters, star filters, diffusion filters, fog filters, in order to make Tron. It was absolutely insane. They used hundreds of thousands of hand-painted Codoliths. The typical scene would have 25 passes under camera for every frame.
Wow.
I mean, the insanity. They had every camera in Hollywood, every Oxbury was working on Tron. The lighting on the Burbank stages was so intense that they blew the Burbank grid twice.
Really?
They blew the city grid twice. It's never happened before or since.
Wow.
I mean, and when you watch Tron and you see all those Chinese names at the end of the movie, people, there was a rumor that, well, they animated Tron in China. No. Those are the poor Chinese people in Taiwan that had to sit and paint black holdout mats for all those Codoliths. They only had one color, black. That's all they painted.
Oh.
All they were doing was painting. They were just painting over the spaces in the lines so the light wouldn't go through. They couldn't see what they were doing. These poor people painted 100,000 of these things.
Oh my gosh.
Totally insane, totally nuts. Will never be done again. So insane that when Richard Taylor showed the film at the Academy, no one could even understand how it was made. The greatest visual effects artists in the industry sat there in the theater and could not understand what they were looking at and would not even ask a question about it. That's how totally bizarre Tron was.
And while you were making it, did the budget mushroom at some point? Were people getting concerned about the budget on it, or was it a just get it done kind of situation?
Amazingly enough, the budget didn't really mushroom that much. You know, I mean, we knew everybody kind of knew what we were doing. It was hard to do, but we knew what we were doing. One thing that I mentioned in the book was that there was at one point where they needed an extra 100,000 Codoliths, and they told Disney, and Disney's the only studio on the face of the earth that would have just, without blinking, said, okay. Because, Disney was an animation studio.
Right.
And they used 200,000 cells to make a movie. So to them, they understood it. They didn't, they were the only place in town that got it. But as far as, it was so difficult to do a scene in CG in those days. I go into this quite a bit in my book. I explain that, remember, we're inventing it. There is no interface. There is no interface. You're not sitting at a computer with controls of what you're looking at. You're basically conceiving an image by drawing it and animating storyboards. And then you're sitting down and you're writing numbers about, you're literally writing numbers about where the bicycle is on frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how it's tilting, how it's leaning. And it was insane. And it was so difficult that it was very hard to do a second take.
Yeah.
So remarkably, when you look at Tron, almost everything you're looking at was pretty much the first take, because to go in and start to do fixes was so hard and took so much time that nowadays a visual effects shot will have 170 takes, right? And Tron, I can't think of a single shot that had a third take. Not one.
How did the movie? What was the reception for the movie when it opened?
Well, it did okay, but to us it was disappointing because we felt we had made a real landmark. I'm happy to say that time has proven us correct. It has become a real landmark and a legend. And, they're making another one now, and they've got the new light cycles at Disneyland, and it's become part of the culture,
Yeah.
At the time, it was coming out of that summer of '82 with Star Trek Wrath of Khan and Close Encounters and Blade Runner. And it was the greatest summer in the history of science fiction. And so we had all this competition, and Tron did not do as well on its initial pass. So that was a bit of disappointment to us.
Bill, I have to tell you, I saw it when I was a kid, opening weekend, and I loved it. And I still love it. And I still love it. And I think over the time, I've been podcasting for a minute, and I have talked to Bruce Boxleitner and about the movie, and it's funny. He still smiles about it, which is really great, and the fans love it. So I have to say, just knowing and hearing about all the behind the scenes of it, it just makes me giddy, because I remember where I was when I saw Tron for the first time, and I had Tron fever. I had the light cycles and the action figures and the record where it had like the storybook and everything about it, and it's amazing. So, and I still love it, and I get giddy about it to this day talking about it. So it's amazing the kind of work you guys put into making that film.
I really appreciate that. And the guy who had maybe the strongest reaction to it was John Lasseter.
Wow.
He sat behind me for days and days and days watching me work on that film. And he just got so hooked on the whole idea of computer animation. And of course, the rest is history there,
Sure.
To recreate the greatest studio in history at Pixar. But the other thing about Tron that I think is kind of a notable thing is that it's one of the few movies ever made of any kind where you can look at any one frame and go, that's Tron. That's the original Tron. You can't really, even the sequels don't look like the original. The original with all the backlit, the pure backlit,
Yeah.
and the lighting and everything, and the filters and the gorgeous, gorgeous look. You can look at any frame of that movie and go, that's Tron. And that's kind of an amazing achievement.
So did you stay at Disney when you finished Tron?
No, I was very interested in computer animation. You got to realize that how many artists ever have an experience where you go in every morning and you literally might be doing something for the first time in history that no one's ever done before. I mean, that was unbelievably exciting and fulfilling to do. And when Tron was over, I was really excited about staying in the business and pushing it. So, I started freelancing for Magi, which was the company that did the light cycles. They opened a studio in Santa Monica, and I started doing commercials there. And then, they went under. And at the time, it would have been, I just wanted to stay in the CG business. So I just kept going, bouncing around and doing freelance jobs here and there. And that's how I finally ended up at Digital Productions on the West Side. And
I was going to say, I think because we're bumping up against time, I feel like this is a great breaking point, and we can pick up digital productions next week when we can continue our conversation with you. How's that sound?
Sounds perfect. Yes.
Well, Bill, thank you for being on the Skull Rock podcast, and we'll see you next week right here at Skull Rock.
This is animation director Matt O'Callahan, and you're listening to the Skull Rock podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast is now on Patreon. Dive deeper into the world of animation, films, and behind-the-scenes stories with your hosts, Aljon Go and Dave Bossert. Not only will you be helping to keep the magic alive, but you will be part of our special community with ad-free episodes. We want to thank friend of the show, Joshua Volkert, as well as Skull Rock crew members, Steve Minch and Chris Banis, for their support. If you would like to join our Skull Rock crew, please visit our Patreon link in our show notes or visit patreon.com/Skull Rock Podcast. Thank you for listening and for your continued support of everything we do.
Skull Rock Podcast, where you hear the stories behind the adventures.
Let's get out of here!
Come on, Scotty, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here!
Let's get out of here, Lieutenant.
All right, part one in the can with Bill Kroyer. And we have a lot more of those interviews coming up for what is going to be Bill Kroyer month, coming up as we wrap up August into September, into the fall. And we've got much more behind the scenes with him. And gang, thank you so much. Thank you, Kat, for being on this program with us. We do appreciate
happy to
it.
be here.
I love the fact that you're filling in for Dave. I think you may be filling in one more week. We'll see. I'm hoping Dave gets his new computer. I've said this, maybe he said this on the show over the past few months, but he's going to get a new Mac. And
Yay.
with the new Mac, yeah, he's got a new house. He's going to get a new Mac. So I'm hoping he gets everything set up. So, but it should be fun. We're going to hook up with Matt Mason, the poet laureate of the show, and hopefully get him to record some poetry moments for upcoming episodes starting this month. So, Matt, it might be news to you if you listen to this, because I'm going to reach out to you. I've been meaning to. But don't forget, gang, if you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform, even YouTube. Give us a like, share, and subscribe to that. Like us on all social medias. We're Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Instagram, Blue Sky. We're there. Also, skullrockpodcast.com for the entire show archive. We're going to try to probably this fall break out some of our interviews from our classic episodes and put them out there as just standalone interview segments. So be on the lookout for that. Email Dave or me, Aljon, at skullrockpodcast.com and give us the feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Kat, tell us about you. Where can people follow you? Because you've been a tremendous co-host over the past few weeks.
Thank you. You can find me on Instagram at Catastrophe, at CAT_ASTROPHE. You can also hear me every week on Dining at Disney with Aljon and Kristen, talking about Disney food, news, whatever we tangent into, because that's how we roll over there.
Yes.
I've been so happy to do this for the past couple weeks, and if it's one more, I'm in. Let's do it.
Thanks. That's awesome. And so yes, please follow Kat. She's a tremendous, absolutely tremendous. And feel free to reach out for Kat too if you're doing any experiential stuff, because I don't know if you love your job, but you never know. You never know in this life. You never know in this life.
You got to keep moving. That's what I say always.
Keep moving forward. That's what we say.
Keep moving.
Here. Yeah. Let's see. So let's make sure we also tune in to Dave. Their Tunes Behind the Tunes on Sirius XM. He's been featuring Rainbow Connection from the Muppet movie, which I absolutely love. Love Rainbow Connection. Check out Disney Hits on channel 133 on Sirius XM Radio to hear Dave. You can all check out theoldmillpress.com and check out his latest book, Find Your Happy Place, the 8-step guide to boosting your creativity through a personal retreat. Winner of a gold medal at the Fire Book Awards. It's a great book, great read. Check it out for yourself, as well as many of his other books and others there at oldmillpress.com. Check out davidbossert.com. When he gets situated, he'll be happy to send you a signed book plate and many more freebies, including his essays. And they're just tremendous. If you love Disney history, which we all do if you're listening to the show, check out davidbossert.com. Also, check out our friends at Sorcerer Radio, all Disney music all day long at srsounds.com. They proudly support this podcast. We're on there all the time. You can also check out me, Aljon Go, on Instagram at Aljon Go. Aljon rocks everywhere else. Find some stupid stories about me and my cats. That's all I'm saying. Thank you so much to our podcast. Thank you to our podcast supporters there on Patreon as well. We do appreciate you. Hey! As Dave says, thank you for tuning into the show. Be good to each other, and we'll see you next week on an all-new episode of Skull Rock Podcast. Enjoy. Check this out. Limited time offers 50% off and third and fourth guest on select sailings. Kat, you can set sail on any select Disney cruise sailing and discover the magic of togetherness. And now for a limited time, third and fourth guests in the same stateroom can join the adventure for 50% off the voyage fare on select sailings, including a very merry time cruises, where your family can celebrate holidays at sea, and you can book today and let the enchantment begin. Sounds like a song. Of course, there are select sailings for the Disney Magic, Wonder, Dream, Fantasy, Wish between October 3rd of this year, 2025, as I record this, and all the way to March 30th of next year. Discounts will be applied to the voyage fare of the third and fourth guest if applicable, and with a purchase of 2 full fare guests at the same stateroom. This is an amazing deal for families. I can't tell you and stress to you how awesome this deal is, because Disney Cruises is a premium experience. It's a top shelf price, and is always lauded as one of the best in the cruise industry. So the fact that they're doing this makes sense for a lot of family to finally experience a Disney cruise with a tremendous save. Once again, email Kristen, if you will, Kristen, Kristen at magicaljourneysvacations.com to take advantage of this and so many other deals when it comes to the Disney parks stateside, Disneyland, Walt Disney World Resort, Adventures by Disney, Disney Cruise Line, or any cruise line from Virgin all the way to Disney, what have you. She does every cruise line in River Cruise. Once again, Kristen at magicaljourneysvacation.com.